changing lives.
Good evening and a very happy new year to you. Yes, and you say you call your Welcome back to the Law Chamber, where legal matters are discussed from a Christian perspective. It's not Anita you're seeing, it is Ajwa Poku, and I am your guest host for today. As you know, we are discussing the first 4 episodes from season 3. And to do that today, I have with me 2 great lawyers who joined us from last season. Richard, welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Oh, definitely. So, tell us, what's new this year? What is it that is new about you we do not know yet?
For us as lawyers, we respond to the times.
Oh, yeah.
And we are in a space today where technology is influencing a lot of the things we do.
Okay.
So we are beginning to see ourselves more at the intersection of the law and technology, and helping our clients navigate the nuances around ensuring that they do not only render services for profit, but they are doing it in a compliant manner. So today that's where we find ourselves.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you, Richard. And then I have another beautiful and lovely lawyer with me, Godsentina. I would want to mention this, Gogo Teria.
That's it.
Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Thank you, Godsentina.
Yes.
It's good to have you back.
I'm delighted to be here.
All right. So, yes, a little bit about you that we probably did not get to know in last season.
Well, you said it all. I'm just a state attorney, and I protect people's investments.
So you are still protecting
and
people.
ensure that we have a simple life. We live a simple life.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So yes, as you have seen, these are going to be our guests for today. And delving right in, we are starting with the basic discussions we had from last season. So it was all about business, and that is what we are starting with. What is a business?
Well, we can look at that from 2 main perspectives.
Okay.
One is look at as an enterprise that one engages in for the purposes of either turning profit or for whatever reason the person has started that activity, the person wants to pursue it. But legally, the law recognizes various forms of businesses or enterprises. So if you look at our legal regime locally, 3 broad main type of business activities are recognized as businesses, or generally what we call companies. So we have what we call the sole proprietorship, which allows an individual Ghanaian with a desire to form a business and run it by him or herself. So it allows that person as a sole owner to be able to register a sole proprietorship and run with it. And when you desire in partnership with others, and not more than 20 as the law says, then you can do what we call partnership. So generally people think that the coming together of 2 or more people to engage in a business activity, which we ordinarily call partnership, is the same as what the law says. The law, one, requires you that you register it. So you are not just doing it with 2 or more people, but not more than 20, but you are required to register it as a partnership. And over the years, professional bodies and professionals have taken advantage of that Partnership Act to incorporate partnerships. So you have accountants, you have lawyers, you have auditors incorporating partnerships. And then we have generally what we call the companies. And at that level, what we have under our Companies Act are of 2 forms. What we generally will call a limited liability company, which is a private company limited by shares, and then an unlimited liability company. What basically it means is that you still have the same recognition by law as a company. But in the case of a company limited by shares, it means the liabilities of the company activities are limited to the assets and capital contribution of the owners. So what ordinarily you should understand that to be is that, for instance, if I start a company and I invest 100,000 Ghana cedis in it, and the company engages in activities over a period, and in the engagement of that activity, for instance, there is a liability of 200,000 cedis that's supposed to be paid. If the company is unable to pay that 200,000 Ghana cedis, what the owner loses in the process is the 100,000 cedis that the owner has brought. So we do not ordinarily go chasing the owner and his or her personal assets to come and pay the debt of the company, unless in very limited circumstances that the law has recognized over the years. And then in the case of the unlimited liability, what it means is that the owners at the time of the registration of the company would have undertaken to say that where the company is in debt and the liabilities are supposed to be paid, do not limit it to the assets of the company. Come after our own personal assets. One will be wondering, why will anyone want to register a company and undertake to pay the liabilities of the company with his personal assets? Now, what that does is that it enables you to borrow money, because sometimes the activities of the company is financed by loan, creditors.
Okay.
So creditors will ordinarily be looking at what is the stated capital of the company, what is the extent of limitation of liability.
Okay.
So if you, for instance, register a company and it's a limited liability and your stated capital is 10,000, and you go to a creditor to get goods or get your business finance on credit, the person ordinarily will be looking at your stated capital and saying that if anything should happen, I may only recover up to your capital, which is 10,000 cedis.
Okay.
But where your liabilities are unlimited, let me give you an example. So for instance, today, generally we have Zoom Lion recognized as a very wealthy man.
Yes.
So if a Zoom Lion owner registers a company and it's unlimited liability, what it means is that he's indirectly telling us from day one that if the company doesn't make money to pay for the liabilities, come for my personal assets. That will give people comfort and more assurance that when I'm dealing with that company, I should not be worried about who will pay for whatever debt will result. Because if the company ordinarily doesn't have resources to pay, the owner's assets will be at stake. So the law has allowed that kind of dynamics as well to be at play, and companies and owners take advantage of that, especially if you want to be able to access credit to be able to run your business activities. So those three broad categories of company registration forms will give you the legal recognition as a business, apart from the ordinary practice of engaging in something of economic activity and expecting a reward as well. So for me, that's how I look at the concept of business generally.
All right, thank you. Enti Richard, the okay ni say Ghana has say o pese only business ta ana udi ejuma ho enkita ho a emrano ehye miensa nso, which is the sole proprietorship, the partnership and company, either limited or unlimited. Yeah. Exactly. Now, sole proprietorship, no one say, wa shall say, we are wage kakra. Ni name no cry say, wa dear, and our way class still or so register. Now, a buying a recognizing who say, okay, assume si nejumeni, na bibi, assume a crab ba wa, umbet matter which partnership, no so say, nipa mienu. Aka bom and bom so ye pese ye mienu ye adwuma we say na imran chair say nipa mienu no yetumi sha say from 2 to 20 mutumi ka bom eye partnership I know sa no muni na mo be register yes nipa ba ko pa register no it covers all the other partners that be each of them.
No, you register
as one. Yeah. Okay, and say a company no
and then the entity you register will be recognized as a partnership. Okay,
tia no so no say na waka na. And so as we always do, we are having our show live on YouTube and Facebook on the Law Chamber GH. You can also catch us live on the multi-choice dish as Hope TV. Moving on, Richard. So apart from registering a company in Ghana and being recognized as a business, what else or what other advantages come with registering? Fine, I am a sole proprietor. I have gone to the registrar to register my business. It is known. I have my number and everything, my identity. What else comes with it?
Okay. Each of the three business forms that I spoke earlier of has their own advantages. And if you look at the sole proprietor regime, what it does is that it gives you a certain official recognition as a business.
Okay.
Even though it is not incorporated, which is to say that the business is separate from you, the owner. It gives you a certain advantage in terms of being able to be recognized. So for instance, you can open a separate account for that business, which is separate from your personal account. You can participate in. So I remember somewhere when COVID was here, government started some small enterprise support programs, and they were requiring those who wanted to benefit from it to have a registered entity. So once you register as a sole proprietor, it gives you that opportunity to be able to submit that entity you registered as a business, and the law will recognize it and be able to support you, and you take advantage of all the supports that are available generally. So for me, the registration process more or less places some level of certainty on the activity you are engaging, because it's supposed to provide a structure for how you run as a business. It has its own advantages. It gives you opportunity to funding, and largely people say that if you register as a sole proprietor, because there is no distinction between the owner and the business, you will not be able to get loan, you will not be able to get funding, no investor is interested in your business. No. If you've demonstrated over a period of time that there is a certain level of traction and growth for the business you have as a sole proprietor, what usually we have investors do is that they set conditions precedents for investment and condition post-investment, which will now say that we've seen what you've done alone, we've seen the growth you've attained. We think that if we support you, you'll get to level B. And because of that, we can now convert that sole proprietorship into a company. And the law recognizes that. So it is about you starting small, building up certain traction, and be able to take advantage of that to be able to convert when you have an investor, or where you have the time where it is proper for you to now convert and gain all the other advantages that would have come if you were registered earlier as a company. So for me, the vehicles provide their own advantages. Yes, they have disadvantages, but the nature of business is that you must manage the risk and maximize the returns. So for every business, it's a risk that the enterprise owner is taking. So business owners must begin to look at it from that angle and formalize their activities, because that formalization gives you a greater advantage than just running from your home, not having any vehicle behind it. Because when it comes to a time, sometimes you see support program that says they need a business that has been in existence for 3 years. Technically, what they are saying is someone who has registered for the last 3 years. So imagine you've been doing very well as a sole proprietor, you've not registered. And then they said they need a business that's registered or has been in existence for 3 years. You cannot show that you've been in existence for 3 years. There's no proof of that. So it is only when you register, formalize your activity, that you can show with evidence that you've been in existence for 3 years to meet some of those funding requirements. So for me, it's important that anyone thinking of enterprise must look towards formalizing it from the beginning and complying as well with the regulatory regime.
Speaking of...
Just as he said, so it's very easy for you when you have that goodwill as a sole proprietorship, and also to get others who have seen your reputation regarding the business you are doing to partner you in what you are doing, and even come to join you to, if you want to incorporate it, just like he said, it will be very easy for you to do that, and you have documentation to prove that you are doing such a business, or you are in that field of business. So that's what I'll say in addition to what that he said.
All right. So as you have it, registering your business is not it's not so bad an idea. I mean, we should all go for it. But speaking of business activities, we see in our world today that a lot of people are doing this intellectual property stuff that are the mundane or sole objective of their business. So when it comes to Ghana, I mean, do we even have anything that protects people who are into such businesses?
Yes, when we talk about intellectual property, you know about creations, inventions, ideas of the humankind. And mostly intellectual property, which we cut it short as IP, help us to resolve issues around us and make us live a simple life, like I said in the beginning. And so when you find that we have a peculiar problem or issue, we use IP to resolve that. So during COVID time, we heard about Veronica buckets, for instance. Yes. So that was invented so that it will help us to prevent ourselves from getting infected with the COVID virus. Yes, so that's one example. And it's very important because even though it is not like immovable property, you treat it exactly as an immovable property is. Because you can sell your land, for instance. The same way you can sell your IP, your intellectual property, which includes trademark, patents, utility models, industrial designs. We have geographical indications, plant varieties, and all that. So you can choose to license it to some other person, or you can by yourself exploit it to your benefit. So it's very good that you protect your IPs. And IPs, just as I said, is a private right, just like you have a land. So you have to enforce your rights. You have to protect it so that others won't take advantage of you.
All right. So we have the protection of the intellectual property. Is it the same as data protection?
No.
Okay, so kindly enlighten us. What then is data protection?
I would say data protection is about mainly people accessing information about others which they are using for a specific purpose. But it's not in terms of the distinguishment here is not using the information they have gained to really solve a problem in the community as
intellectual property is. So intellectual property comes to solve a problem.
Exactly.
But data protection
make our lives easy. But for data protection, the information is required for a specific purpose. But not really to resolve a problem which is evolving or at the point in time, I would say, simply.
All right, so seeing that they are two different things, at their registration, I mean, definitely their registration would also be different, no?
For data protection, you do not register. As far as I am concerned. But for intellectual property, you would have to register it. Under intellectual property, there are two main branches. First of all, we have the copyrights. And then we have the industrial property. With copyrights, once it concerns with writings, mainly music, the arts, and related matters. Once you produce those things, automatically you are deemed as entitled to it as your right. But then for the sake of documentation and for the sake of maybe litigation, that is where you would want to go ahead and then proceed to the Copyright Office to register it. For trademarks, which comes under industrial property, so I've mentioned trademarks already, patents, utility models, and all that. You are in a field where you provide services, or you manufacture goods, or you sell goods, you trade in goods and services. So you have other competitors.
Right.
You want to distinguish your product or your service from that of other people. So you use these ones as, for instance, in trademarks, you use it as an identifier, something that helps you to distinguish your product from that of others who are also in the same trade from yours.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. And so we have registered our business. We've been able to identify our business types. We've gone through what we have to do to protect our business. What are some of the agreements a business person must put in place? I understand there are some shareholders agreements, employers. At what point are they very important in the establishment of a business?
The agreements are multiple, but it's up to the parties involved to recognize at what stage the agreement is needed. So if you look at the formative stage of the business, where parties are coming together to agree on the venture they want to pursue, the requirement will be that at least between the supposed shareholders, there must be an agreement that regulates their relationship. Who has, for instance, the majority right in terms of voting, what is the entitlement in respect of dividends, who is going to appoint the CEO, who may appoint finance director, and things like that. And generally, you find those things in what we call the shareholders agreement.
Okay.
So basically, shareholders agreements are just agreements between the owners.
Okay.
And it's enforceable between them. It's enforceable between the owners. So it's only the owners that can enforce a shareholders agreement, because it is them that have undertaken that this is how we want our relationship to be regulated, despite the fact that we are all owners of the company. Because sometimes you all do not own the company in equal shares. Some may be 30%, 40, 20, 10. So where you have multiple owners, shareholders agreement helps you to regulate how your relationship is done. Now, moving on from there, once you start your business operation, there are some mandatory agreements that you must have in place. One of them is the employee agreement, because you're going to be working with people. So you cannot work with people on assumption that maybe we are church members or we go to the same school, so come work with me. That relationship must also be regulated in a way. What is the person's job description? What duties must a person perform? What salary is the person entitled to? Number of leave days, probation period, if the person wants to leave, what are the conditions for termination of appointment and all that. So all those as well you can put into what we call the employee agreement, which is executed between the company and the employees that you engage. Now, if you move on from the employee circle, even within the employee circle, sometimes, depending on the level of intellectual property issues at stake, some companies sign NDAs with their employees. Because the whole idea is that once you employ somebody, you must be able to expose the person to the underlying designs that you have, or the underlying ideas of how, or the processes for how you make your juice or you make your yogurt. And that is where your intellectual property is. So one of the ways you can protect that from being disclosed or used against your business interests will be that signing an NDA with your employees. So even at the employee level, beyond the signing of an employment agreement, some companies sign NDAs with their employees. So, but that NDA circumstance is only where you have intellectual property to protect. Then you do that. When you move on from there, your engagement with third parties, people who either you render services for or render services for the company, can also influence the type of agreement you sign. And largely you have companies, for instance, that buy goods from third parties, for instance, raw materials, signing supply agreements, some companies that provide service, signing what we call service level agreements, companies that maybe provide services for other third parties, signing what we call retainer agreements. So for us as lawyers, because we provide services for clients, we sign what we call retainer agreements. So depending on the level of services you provide, you can sign various agreements, production agreement, supply agreements, servicing agreement. For example, if you service your vehicle with a company, you can sign a service agreement with that company. So at that level where the company is interfacing with third parties, the agreements are multiple. They are how do I say it? As many as the company activities are. So the more the company engages with third parties, the more agreements the companies will sign. But the distinction, or what is greatly or mandatorily required, is that those agreements must be binding agreements.
Okay.
Because when it comes to enforcement, you may not have a right to enforce, even though you have, or you may look at it and think that it's an agreement. So for instance, mostly companies, you hear they say we have an MOU with a supplier. If you have an MOU with a supplier, generally MOUs are unenforceable. So where there are no performances under an MOU, and you go to a lawyer and say, I want to go to court, we cannot help you.
Work, yeah. Because
even though it's an agreement you've signed, the terms of the agreement does not make the non-compliance enforceable. Okay. So largely, what we advise businesses to do is that where you expect or you have an anticipation of enforcing non-compliance on the part of either you or the other party, then you must make sure that the agreement you are signing is an enforceable one. And those enforceable agreements we call contract. So there are certain things we may be looking out for, whether there was an offer, there was acceptance of offer, consideration, whether there was even an intention to create a legal relationship, and what was the capacity of the parties. Okay. So we'll look at those things, and those things don't show in one format. They are reflected in various ways depending on the contract circumstance or the performance that is expected of the parties under the contract. So the only advice or generally what is expected is that make sure once it's a contract or it's an agreement you are expecting non-compliance to be enforced, it must be a binding one, and it's not an MOU that you are signing thinking that we have signed an agreement and then there is no performance and we can't do anything to help you.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard. And this means a lot. I mean, establishing a business is not just minya table, minya minyama, meto inyama. No. It comprises a lot of things. But that also brings something to light. So, is it even necessary? I mean, from what Richard has explained right now, is it necessary to have a lawyer do all these agreements, draft them, or I can, at my own will, sit down and then maybe go to Google, look for, okay, how to draft an employee agreement. I mean, all I have to do is put there that this is the date for probation, these are the benefits. Is it necessary to have a lawyer draft these agreements at all?
Yes, it's very important because of the legal implications. And we have different states. Okay, so the Companies Act, what it requires of us, for instance, in Ghana, will be different from what it is in Togo, for instance. So if you pick a precedent from Togo, it may not apply to us here. And so it's very important that when you are establishing a business or that you are drafting contracts and all that, you involve a lawyer from the beginning to make it tighter, so that when it comes to enforcement, you will not have difficulty enforcing them.
Okay.
Just like you have with IPs as well. Okay. You need IP attorneys or agents who knows the procedure about registering IPs to guide you to do that, so that you will not lose out.
Okay.
And you'll be able to better leverage all that will benefit you, to your benefits.
Okay, so it's not just about establishing the business but having a legal mindset behind it all, and a legal person actually helping you every step. of the way.
Now, to add to that, sometimes what entrepreneurs forget is that it is not the ideas that determine what is permissible.
Okay.
It is the law that says that this is permissible, that is not permissible. And if we are purely driven by profit, I'm sure all of us should be engaged in cocaine business because that's one of the most profitable business. But the law says you cannot do it.
Okay.
So what it means is that it's the law that provides the framework for what you can do and cannot do. Yeah. And the best people to understand what the requirement of the law is usually lawyers. Yeah. So you cannot assume that you are an entrepreneur and you can do this by yourself. Okay. What you may be doing will be creating a problem which will not manifest immediately, but over time then create a bigger problem for you that you cannot solve. And that may ultimately take away your entire years of engaging in that activity. Mm-hmm. We've seen examples in this country. I'm not sure I want to
no, we wouldn't want to go there.
But we've seen it. People started businesses and said the law doesn't require us to do A and B. Okay. But over time, the law caught up with them, and today we don't have those businesses. Wow. So it's very important that you make the law your starting point and understanding what are the limits, what are the scope for the activities I want to engage in, and how does the law support you to be able to grow. And then you can be able to provide a sustainable business enterprise.
Okay. I hope you heard what he said. He says make the law your starting point. We are going for a short commercial break. We will be right back.
Introducing the Adventist Men's National Convention from March 28th to the 1st of April 2024 at Valley View University. This is going to be a gathering of strength, faith, and brotherhood.
Hello, friend. I invite you to join us for 5 unforgettable days of inspiration, empowerment, and brotherhood. All the men, come around. Let's talk about ourselves. We will tell our story. Let's empower each other. Another team, Adventist men chosen for mission.
Register at the cool price of 300 cedis, and I know God will provide for you. And you can get the ticket everywhere, every local church in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. May you be blessed. See you there.
Main speaker, Pastor Dr. Kwame Kweni Boache. Other speakers include Pastor Dr. Thomas Techi Okran and Pastor Dr. Kwame Anoboahe.
Adventist Men National Convention from the 28th of March to the 1st of April, happening at Valley View University Campus, Oyibi, Accra. Register now with 300 Ghana cedis and be part of something extraordinary.
As a small business owner, Mitaisha Business Forum, our Hope Channel, it really helps me with my business.
Don't let your priorities be because obi eye bibinti. Also share some wide. Why wankasa sawasa. So we jani niya udiani.
Okay.
Obiani need so that ungofa a problem in my house.
In the first place, business a risk.
Okay.
It's just all about risk. Now, pursue your business, so now you need you should be a risk taker.
Okay.
I would recommend it to you to mess rest also beshebi.
Welcome back. This is the Law Chamber, where legal matters are discussed from a Christian perspective. And so before we went for the break, we were discussing something about the agreements we have, and then the fact that it is necessary to have a lawyer when establishing a business. Because we understand a sole proprietor takes everything upon himself. But is it possible for a sole proprietor to have shareholders? I mean, he has registered the business as a business of his own, and then later people try to want to have shares in it. Is it possible?
Okay. When you register a business as a sole proprietor, you are telling the lawmaker or you are telling the world that there can only be one shareholder at a particular time.
Okay.
And that one shareholder is you. So you cannot take on any other shareholder. But what the law recognizes is that people could start businesses as shareholders, as sole proprietors, being the only shareholder, but over time have interest from others. So the law provides for conversion. So at the stage where you have interest from other people who want to join you as owners of your sole proprietorship, the law allows you to convert that sole proprietorship into a company, okay, which now will allow those people to be part of owners and then be called shareholders. But at your level as a sole proprietor, technically you are just the only shareholder per se. You cannot take on any other person as a shareholder. If any other person gives you money for the purposes of the business, the person may be giving you a loan that you must pay back, but the person cannot be investing as an owner of the business.
Okay. So it must move.
Yes, it must convert, and there are processes of doing that at the Registrar General's office to be able to convert into a company and then be able to allow others to become shareholders of the company.
All right. Businesses of today, a lot of businesses, a lot of friends I have are into what we call online business. I'm not sure if that is catered in our constitution. But if it is, what are the regulations these online businesses are supposed to be complying with? Because I know a friend of mine, she takes the pictures, posts them on Instagram, gets people to buy, and that is it.
Okay. Online is just another channel of selling your product or trading. So online is not a business per se.
Okay.
It's just like having a shop in East Legon or a shop in Osu.
Okay.
So the focus rather should be on whether or not the person has a registered entity that is doing business online. Because the law doesn't see that online presence as a business form. We see it as a channel or a means by which you are trading. You understand? Yes. So what will be of concern is whether your friend has registered that enterprise in the first place before trading online. So there are no regulations specifically in place for online or e-commerce activities because the law generally sees them as just having a shop.
Okay.
If you have a shop in Osu, generally there are no laws that requires you to have a shop or not have a shop.
Okay.
So the online presence is just a means by which you are trading. Okay. But generally you are expected to ensure that your trading activity is also in compliance with law generally, because we understand that people have used the online platform to defraud people.
Yes.
And people are losing money attempting to buy from those e-commerce and online platforms. So you cannot be leading some of those fraudulent online marketing activities. If you do so, then you are in default of the law, and the law will deal with you. But if you have a registered business, legally recognized, and you have your presence online, selling your wares online, there is no extra regulation or registration that you need to be able to do that.
Okay. Now, we also understand that with partnership, we can have 2 and more up until 20. When it comes to disputes with these partnerships, how are they usually resolved? I mean, definitely we are human beings. There will be a point in time where I want to do it this way and you want to do it that way, and there's a friction somewhere. What are the dispute resolutions when it comes to partnerships and even companies, limited and unlimited liability?
Okay, so the good thing about the law is that The law anticipates some of these things.
Okay.
So one of the provisions, particularly in the sense of partnership that the law has made, is that there is a mandatory requirement that before you register a partnership, you must submit to the registrar a partnership deed, which is an agreement between the partners regulating almost all the issues around how they want their relationship to be governed. So it is an opportunity for you at that stage to be informing the registrar that if it comes to dispute resolution, or if it comes to decision making, if it comes to sharing of profit, if it comes to contribution of capital, if it comes to withdrawal from the partnership, these are the ways by which we want our relationship to be governed. So it's mandatorily required. If you don't tell the registrar, the law has a default agreement that the law will give you. So in a sense of a partnership, you cannot register it without an agreement. So that is an opportunity for the law to be able to regulate how some of these issues relating to relationship between people, how issues of conflict can be managed, how issues of distribution of profit and stuff like that can be managed. So the law, one way or the other, has made those provisions. So it is up to those who are forming the partnership to take advantage of it, to either make their own provisions in their own agreement, or be bound by what Parliament, for instance, has done as a standard general agreement that governs any partnership relationship.
Okay. So, which means from the word go, they need to have their blueprints down.
Yes, you need to have an arrangement as to how those issues are managed. If you don't have it, Parliament has designed a very simple standard one.
I see.
That once you register, the registrar will give you, which now becomes your compulsory agreement as to how your relationship is managed.
So those, in addition to what he's saying, so that agreement has to form part, you have to add it to the forms that you fill, the partnership forms for the registration, to the registrar of companies for them to process your registration of the partnership.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I have a question here from Akese from Dansoma. And the question is, if a trademark is registered, would it have to be renewed yearly, like the business registration?
Okay, so trademarks are not renewed every year.
Okay.
We use the term maintenance.
All right.
And the maintenance is done every 10 years. It depends on which country or which states you are staying.
Okay.
I know for instance, in Nigeria, the first term is 7 years. Then you may have 14 years after that. But in Ghana, it's 10 years from the time of the filing. So for instance, if your company, you registered your trademark, you filed it in, let's say, 2013, then the expiration date or the renewal date for you would have been 2023. Yes, so it's for 10 years.
Okay. So
not yearly.
Necessarily okay. And then now that this question came in, I also have something I have been thinking of. There are a lot of young entrepreneurs who are more into the intellectual property business now than we have of our fathers and then the older generation. How are they supported as young entrepreneurs, as startups? Because before that, please help me with the fee for the intellectual property registration and everything. And how are these young entrepreneurs and startups supported to be able to afford that?
Okay, so first of all, intellectual properties are assets.
Okay.
Okay, and these are assets which may belong to an individual or a business. And if it's a business, then it's part of your strategy. Okay, it creates revenue for you.
Okay.
It's an investment you are doing.
Okay.
You understand me? So it comes there, whether you are expending, as in using funds to develop those ones, at the end of the day, is going to create more revenue for you, for your benefits. So that the same way you can sell other properties aside intellectual property or immovable property, you can sell intellectual property just as you can sell your car, for instance, or your land.
Okay.
So, and you know, let me give you an example. Your car, you need to insure it.
Yes.
You need to maintain it. You need to fuel it and all that. It's the same thing you do with your intellectual property. Yes, so the laws that governs it directs you or guides you how to protect them or maintain them.
Okay.
For you to benefit from it. So you can assign, you can license. It's all about you building that reputation, that goodwill, so that you can also allow other people to maybe use it, and then you would derive some revenue from allowing them to use it, or that yourself you would be able to exploit it to your advantage. So you can be in Ghana, but if you deem it, you see that you could export your products, for instance, to a different country where you think that they could have interest in your products, or you want to establish a goodwill there, then there is the need for you to go ahead and then also register or protect your brand from there, so that if you don't protect it, people can take advantage of it and then will produce similar products or goods just like yours, and they may not have the quality or the reputation that yours have. So it's important that you take steps to register it, so that you would exclude those people from taking advantage or producing or providing services which are similar to yours that will confuse the people, and maybe at a point in time it may even affect you, because if they are producing, for instance, substandard products and yours is of a reputation, then people will be associating your products to that of the others, and you will lose revenue as a result of that.
All right. So basically that is a sure thing that you'd advise young entrepreneurs to do today. Not that we have any other support to give them, but for you, what is the amount they pay for the registration in the first place?
Okay, so when you apply for trademarks, let me call it a standard trademark application in Ghana. After completing the form, which we call the Form 2, you put in all the necessary information. First, you put in the mark, the trademark that you are using. The trademarks is just a sign. And the sign could come in the form of name, words, numerals, it could be a shape, it could be a logo, or combinations of that. And then also there is a guide by the World Intellectual Property Organization where members have signed what we call the NIS agreement. The NIS agreement has classes of goods and services. There are 45 in all. So for instance, if you want to deal in fuels or energy, it's in class 1. If you are talking about legal services, you are looking at 45. So it depends on what your business is into, which would determine which class you would want to put on the form with the logo or the combination of trademarks you want to register. And then you provide the necessary information as regards to if it's a sole proprietorship or it's an individual who is registering it, or it's a company. You provide all those information in there. And once it's complete and you have the payment, which is $200 for the application, you have $240. And then when we receive the application, we will check to see if you have met the requirements with regards to formality. And then after that, we would examine it in terms of what the law says. Yes, there are certain marks that you cannot register. He made an example of you trading in cocaine. The same way you cannot, trademarks for instance, you cannot use words or marks which are against public policy. For instance. If it's misleading, it will not be accepted. if it's a trade name of another company, you cannot.
Okay.
If it's a hallmark or a name of a country which we know and is well known, you cannot use it. So there are requirements to that.
But do you have a system that is able to tell that this trademark you're coming with is already owned by someone? Okay.
Yes. So we have what we call search.
Okay.
You can do a search to find out if there's a similar mark on record.
Okay.
So to be safe, if you want to create a trademark, you should coin it.
The originality.
It should be original.
But what if growing up I had a sister that I always used to talk about my ambitions with, and then maybe my sister coins something similar to my, I mean, yeah, she thinks it's original, but it was my idea. Then I grow up and then, I mean, original over here.
You see, because you cannot know.
Exactly.
That is why you have to conduct the search.
Okay.
And even if you don't conduct the search, because the law has made provisions for what can be registered and what cannot be registered, the registry by itself uses that to examine the mark, which we call the substantive examination.
Okay.
So once we see that there is a similar mark on record or on the register, we will inform you that because of that, you cannot register it.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes, just like you are saying, for young people and maybe people with disabilities and all that, what we can do for them and individuals, what we do for them is to go to the extra mile to tell them that this mark cannot be registered. Okay. And so we are giving you the opportunity to create another mark for us to continue to examine it without you paying extra cost for that.
Oh,
so we do that.
Oh, okay.
For young people.
Okay.
But we always advise them that they go for marks, not marks that are well known.
Okay.
Because even if it's misspelling of a well-known mark, it will still not pass. So be authentic, be creative, be innovative.
Okay.
And that would take you far.
Exactly. Yes.
Sorry, there was one thing she said which I want to emphasize: the fact that intellectual properties are assets.
Okay.
As young people at the startup level, the only asset you have is your idea, which is reflected in the various intellectual property assets that you will have. So if you recognize that that is the only thing you have, and that is the only thing you can also leverage for funding, because the guys who have the money don't have the idea, and the guys who have the idea don't have the money. So if you are not able to protect your idea, to give confidence to the guys who have the money, that this is not something that somebody can easily, for instance, imitate, or this is not something that somebody can easily reproduce, and that is either protected in one way or the other, either by registration or by your own internal arrangements of keeping it a straight secret, then you will be able to leverage the required funding that you need. So it is very important that the issue of intellectual property is taken up strongly by young people who are coming up with business ideas. That you don't go to a conference and anyone you meet, you say, come, let's have a seat. This is a business idea I have. And then you explain everything about how your business works in anticipation that you're going to get an investment. You would have given off your idea even before you leave that conference or seminar. So it's very important that we are conscious as young people that it is an asset, we own it, we can leverage it, and we must put in the right mechanisms to be able to derive the benefit that we want out of it.
Yes, and again, just as he said, so we see young people going for exhibitions, especially in terms of utility models or patents, and they display their wares and even go to the extent of telling what they join together, the materials they use and all that. I don't want to mention a particular state in a world where we know that they are very smart when it comes to these things. They organize these exhibitions, and we have all the cameras going there, and we are asking questions, and they say all these things, and then they quickly go back and go and develop. And once intellectual property is based on first come like priority.
Yes.
So whoever comes first, and if the person succeeds in registering it, that's it, it's gone. And for patents, there's a period, just like in industrial design, there's a period. Once you expose it to the public, or you exhibit it to the public for 12 months, after that, you are not able to register it. And we have an example here during the COVID times. We have an example I don't want to specifically mention, but we had a similar situation because of that, because it wasn't registered, or steps were not taken within the time allowed for it to be registered. So then it's gone. It falls into the public domain and you lose it.
Okay.
But you see how he mentioned trade secrets. Coca-Cola. You are wondering what they put in there.
Yeah.
To have it. People try to also have a similar one, but because of the trade secrets, which they haven't, made it public, they make money out of it. And they have so much money, billions of money, when it comes to companies who have really leveraged or exploited their IPs. You can talk about Coca-Cola.
Wow, this is something. So it's not just about having your idea, but protecting it and then monetizing, making revenue from it. We have exactly 1 minute to go. So wrapping up, let's start with you first, Tina. Well, what is the advice you'd want to give out there? What is it that we should look out for as people who are now trying to start businesses and to establish our small startups?
Okay, so first, we'll have to register our businesses. It's very important that you register your businesses. And you should not at any point in time hesitate retaining a lawyer when it comes to drafting of your agreements and all that. It's very, very important, because most of the time it saves you litigation and you are spending money, running around, time which you can invest in your business. And when we have ideas we should leverage on it. We should protect it. We should not leave it for others to take advantage of that. We should be authentic. We should be creative. We shouldn't copy. That is what I would say.
Okay. Richard?
For me, there's been a lot of predictions about the future.
Okay.
But one thing I don't ever see happening is where we'll get to a stage where the businesses we do will not be regulated by law.
Okay.
The only reason why we've had a stable world till today in terms of business is because the law has provided a framework of certainty and certain level of predictability for how things are done. And the law is going to be here. So for young people, it is better for you to now begin to understand how the law works. Because to a large extent, if you understand that, it gives you an opportunity to take advantage of it. And if you take that, for instance, into the regime of tax, we say that tax avoidance and tax evasion. Tax avoidance, even though you've avoided tax, is legal, but tax evasion is the problem. Yeah. So if you don't understand how to avoid tax, you may end up being engaged in an illegal activity, which is tax evasion. So spend time to understand the regulations around your industry and be able to build a compliance system that supports you to be on top of your game and be doing the right things going forward.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard and Tina. Viewers, it has been an enlightening session today. I have learned one or two today, and I hope you did save. And then the Ekaya say, so ejuma ho ideas bila person we organa hasia your emra ebo ejuma le ho bai. Iti lawyer I shall better Joe lawyers sisi almost so by bebre pebi di kita ho they bisa de say emra ben and ebo ejuma ne ho bai sa na wo sha asia o chire bi obi beka say be idea and our fa na odi aye we ejuma no eno na ebe bua mo etumi etumpon na wo idea ne so no wenya ehon emfaso ama we ejuma no enyi Thank you for staying with us today. This is the Law Chamber, where we discuss legal matters from a Christian perspective. See you same time next week. Have a wonderful evening. And the team here at Hope Channel, together with the TLC team, would like to extend our condolence to the family of the late Honorable John Kuma, who is also the Deputy Finance Minister. We will keep the family in prayers. See you same time next week. Bye.